G'day and welcome back to the garage. In the last episode of the RM250 build, the engine assembly was finally completed, along with the carburetor. In this episode, the frame will be repaired and then painted back in its original yellow colour. Let's get started. Although the frame was stripped bare in a previous episode, the steering stem bearings were still in place. To remove them, the manual talks about a special tool that I didn't have. So I made one, and it makes removal of the races relatively easy. All it does is slide inside the stem and then expands. The lip then catches on the bottom of the bearing race, and this gives you something to hit and drive the bearing out. These bearings have probably never been removed, so some heat expands the steel and helps the process. With the frame now completely bare, it's cleaned up with degreaser and elbow grease in preparation for sandblasting. After cleaning, the frame was sandblasted. This was done off camera using an industrial sandblaster, and it uncovered a few concerning areas that will need addressing. The rear of this frame has been damaged and repaired before. I think this can be improved upon though. But first I need to make sure that everything's square. One reference I do have is a brand new aluminium strut that I was able to find. The original looked okay, but I could never be sure that it wasn't bent. And with the new strut installed, it looks okay. The next checks start here at the swing arm pivot. I'm going to use this as a reference point. With the pivot bolt installed, I can use a digital level and zero it on this plane. This will now be my reference to compare to the rear of the frame. So far so good, but that rear fender brace is out of shape. Fitting a new fender up to the frame confirms that there's an issue here. The brace fouls on the plastic, meaning that the bolt holes don't line up, and it twists out of shape. I initially used this big clamp to try and reshape the brace, but it didn't work out. It was bending it in the wrong spot. So I decided to use a combination of hammers, heat and more clamps to get the result I wanted. And after all of that, the fender fits, with a small amount of clearance under the brace. As a final check for squareness, I use a straight edge across the rear fender mounts, right at the back of the frame. It checks out okay, so I can now get on with cleaning up the cracks and repairs. With the welding now complete, the painting process can begin, starting with a thorough clean. Then, a few coats of etch primer are applied, And then the colour. I'm using acrylic paint with a colour code of RAL1023, which is called Traffic Yellow. It's a very close match to the original plastic, as you'll see shortly. And finally, a few coats of clear and the painting process is complete. So with the frame now painted, it's ready for the engine to be installed, and I'll cover that in the next episode of the RM250 build. Thanks for watching, see you next time.